Now that Broncos football is officially over for the foreseeable future, heading deeper into the offseason, I thought it would be a good time to give you a quick little update, as I did kind of yesterday, about our power rankings here at Chat Sports. As you can clearly see, right now we're doing better than the Ravens, but we're really, really close to Falcons Today. So do me a huge favor, hit that subscribe button right now, lock us in, and help us pass Falcons Today on the Chat Sports Power Rankings. All right, so today's show, sorry to keep you waiting, is a little bit about surprise trade candidates for the Denver Broncos. Got twisted up with my words there. But the Broncos are done until the end of July. The offseason workouts are completely over. So how about some surprise trade candidates based off what we've seen from OTAs and mandatory minicamp? And I don't want to waste any more time. Let's just get into the list. Our first one, Jaleel McLaughlin, somebody that I have mentioned multiple times as a potential trade candidate. And the reason being should come to no surprise to any Broncos fan. J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey are your ones and twos. Now, you could make the argument, and you wouldn't be necessarily wrong, to say that McLaughlin could end up sliding into that RB3 spot with Audric Estime. However, based off of what we saw last year from McLaughlin and from Estime, I believe that Audric Estime has that extra gear in the tank, something that just leads me to believe from watching him at Notre Dame to last year in his rookie season, he's got something to give. And I feel like we've already capped out at what we know Jaleel McLaughlin is, which is a very solid RB2. Not somebody that's going to break the bank or break the mold or redefine what the position is, but somebody that you can plug and play and fully expect to get you somewhere between 350 to 500 yards. He only found the end zone one time. And truthfully, there's not enough mouths to feed right now in the Broncos running back room, especially when you went out and signed J.K. Dobbins, who, for all intents and purposes, is going to be your RB1. So between Harvey, Dobbins, and Estime, I got to ask, where does McLaughlin fit in? I mean, let's just think about what each running back brings to the table really quickly. Dobbins is going to be your RB1, the guy who averages almost 5 yards per carry when healthy. Harvey, new, exciting toy to play with, very shifty, left-to-right quickness, and Estime, who's more of your power back, goal line, third and short formations. McLaughlin is just kind of, he's not great at one particular thing. He's okay in a lot of things. So, to me, he's one of the only backs in this room that either A, has any trade value, or B, not worth keeping. So, the trade likelihood, in my opinion, 7 out of 10 right now. Now, if I'm doing on a scale, I'm looking at this saying, okay, 10 being they're going to get traded and 1 being like they're untouchable. I think this has some merit. I think this is a 7 out of 10, and I think you could see McLaughlin garner some, trade rumors or some phone calls heading into the 2025 NFL season. So let me ask you this. Would you trade or keep Jaleel McLaughlin? I understand if you want to keep him. But let's be honest, if there is an ability to get some draft capital back, he'd be the first one out of all the running backs that I would have on this list. Now let's switch over to the defensive side and go Jaquan McMillan. I know, you're going to look at this and go, this is a bullshit player on the list. We are not trading Jaquan McMillan. Can I just allow me to explain, all right? The Cowboys and the Panthers have already shown interest in Jaquan McMillan. They've already made phone calls about acquiring his services. Now, from a production standpoint and on the field standpoint, Jaquan McMillan has been very consistent. And that's the one word that I think I would use to describe him. He's not amazing. He's not bad. He's actually been fairly solid. He had 10 PBUs last year, so a very solid starting nickel corner. But you drafted Jahdae Barron. Now, I know that Sean Payton has gone out multiple times this week and talked about what he envisions for Barron, and that's to play the slot and to play the cornerback position, or the outside cornerback position in place of Riley Moss. So I look at this, and you could probably interchange Moss and McMillan for this trade candidate, but based off of what Jahdae actually is, like his natural position, which is slot corner, this would make the most sense. Now, McMillan has been consistent the last 2 years. In fact, if we take a look at what he did in 2023 and in 2024, I think you'll find something to be very truthful. He's not getting worse. He's actually getting slightly better. So I think the Broncos look at him and say, if we had a nice rotation of Jahdae Barron and Jaquan McMillan, you're looking at two of the best slot nickel corners in the NFL, like the best duo, in a couple of seasons. So that means, at least to me, that the trade likelihood in this scenario is low. 3.5 out of 10. I think the only reason you put him on this list is because two teams have already expressed big interest in trading for him with the Cowboys and the Panthers. So I would be not doing my job if I didn't at least put him on the list. But with that being said, I don't think a trade is likely at all. Now, before I get into my next two trade candidates, do me a favor. Start shopping for Fanatics today. Listen, I know that I've been throwing this down your throat all week long, but the truth is, this deal is not going to last much longer. You have only got a couple more days before it completely goes away for good. So if you want to get this sweet Broncos hoodie on a warm, brisk morning where you're going out for a jog, you could sport this. People are going to be like, wow, look at that guy. He's dressed to the nines. All you got to do is use this link that I've put in the comments and description of today's video. Go to chatsports.com/Broncos hoodie. My third trade candidate. All right, now we're actually getting into the one where I think is very, very likely that this happens. John Franklin-Myers. And I don't like saying this because he was awesome last year. In fact, one of the, four pillars of this Broncos pass rush. Zach Allen, Nick Bonito, Jonathan Cooper, JFM. All of these guys, in between these four players, 39.5 sacks. That's insane work. But the truth is that with all of the players that have looming contract negotiations coming up ahead, JFM is at the low totem pole. And last year, like I said, I thought he was really good. Broncos fans thought he was really good. And I'm not saying that he's going to be traded prior to the 2025 season. But I will say this. If you do trade him, before the trade deadline, you're saving $8 million. That's a pretty good chunk of change for one player, especially on the defensive line. So if you look at how much you could save and the pay priorities right now with the Broncos being Cortland Sutton, Zach Allen, Nick Bonito, and then at the very end, JFM, you tell me which one of these guys doesn't get paid. Go ahead, I'll wait for a second. I think you know the answer. And I don't take any pleasure in saying that because, like I said, I think he's a really good player, and he's been vocal about getting his new contract. Right now, he's making $7.5 million a year. There's reports that he wants close to $20 million. Now, could the Broncos end up saying, well, we'll offer you 12 or 13, but what are the odds of him taking that? Not high. And I do think that if he has another good, at least, let's call it half a season with the Broncos, there will be a team that comes calling and says, we need all the help we can get, and we're high in cap space. We'll trade for him. So the trade likelihood, in my opinion, 8 out of 10. I know I spelled likelihood wrong right there, so that's my bad. I look like a fourth grader trying to spell. But 8 out of 10, this seems to be pretty high, in my opinion. In fact, out of all the guys that I've listed today so far, this is the most likely to happen in terms of a trade. So let me ask you this, though. If not any of these players, or maybe some of these players, if there is a Broncos player that you think is going to be traded or should be traded, let me know in the comment section down below. I have to stake my claim so far for JFM, but only because you could get the most out of him draft capital-wise, and you could save a good amount of money, and he's looking for a new contract. All those three kind of blending together just makes a lot of sense. Now, my last one. P.J. Locke. And I know that at safety, everybody is going to be clamoring down in the comments, Moose, we need depth. Yeah, well, we have a lot of depth at corner. And P.J. Locke, I'm not going to lie to you, he's expendable. And I don't mean that he's a bad player. Expendable doesn't mean bad. It just means you're good enough to garner some draft capital for, but are you good enough to start? And I think the answer that we saw was no. And that's why you went out and signed Talanoa Hufanga. And you still have Brandon Jones, who was excellent last year. So between those two as your starters, you might be thinking, well, Locke's next up on the list. But you went out and signed Sam Franklin Jr., and you still have Devin Key. So if I look at this and I say, Out of all the players that could potentially fill that role, who's the one that could end up getting me more draft capital back? And that's P.J. Locke. Plus, he saves you $4.2 million in cap space if you trade him. So another player outside of the ones that I just mentioned, he's the highest cap savings hit. So you'd be saving money, you could get draft capital, and you'd have people that could potentially take his place. Do you see where I'm going with this? Now, I will say this. I think the Broncos want to roll out with as many of the same players as they did last year. I think they believe, and I believe as well, that this is one of the best defenses in the NFL. Not only as a pass rush, but as a potential secondary unit. So I think there might be some pause as to getting rid of guys that already know the Vance Joseph system. So that would lead me to believe that the trade likelihood in this particular part, 6 out of 10. I look at this and I say, is it going to happen? It's right around 50-50 right now. And I would give the slight nod only because of what you did in free agency signing Talanoa Hufanga. But the truth is that there's something that tells me in my gut right now that Vance Joseph and Sean Payton are very content with how the roster looks right now. So, yes, there are some guys on this list that could be traded. And yes, you can't pay everybody, right? So there aren't enough mouths to feed. Somebody's going to go. So out of these 4 guys, I think JFM probably at number 1, McLaughlin at 2, Locke at 3, and then Jaquan McMillan at 4, if I had to power rank them in terms of likelihood to be traded. Now, before I end today's show, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Remember, it's completely free. We are on our way to 37K. And guys, we were down by like 1,300 to Falcons Today just about a month ago. We have caught up significantly. So if you want to take over that Falcons Today spot, the Chat Sports Power Ranking, hit that subscribe button. My name is Moose. Until next time, be cool.